start to liquefy. My body feels it, but the fight, oh, the chaos has its place. The spinning takes its place. My mind begins to race. Recognize my face. Talking by myself. I don't need no help. The chaos takes its place. Recognize my face.
Hello, everyone, and my name is Kristen Manners, and I want to welcome everybody again to another edition of Targeted, and I'm joined with my co-host, V, and today we have a very special guest with us. His name is David Huber, and I'm very excited to have David on the show today. He is he's done just extraordinary work. He's been a targeted individual since around 2009, if I have that correct. He has written a book that he's going to be putting out, but more importantly today, we want him to talk about his stalking experience. His book coming out is going to be called The Invisible Stalker, but I want to introduce David. And please, David, would you tell us a little bit about your experience as a targeted individual? And thank you very much for being here with us.
Sure. No, absolutely. It initially presented itself, was actually in 2008, around the summer of 2008, around June, as far as I can tell. And it may have had some subtle effects closer to that, but the original onset of being targeted, I think, has various components to it. One component is something targets us. And I don't think it's necessarily government related. I think once you're identified as someone who's affected by this, then the government can move in for further targeting. What I mean is let's say you're targeted by something, and the government will identify you as a person to do this either by your online posts or by the people that you hang out with socially, because targeted individuals tend to gather together and look for group support and strength. And then that the government will come and do is and put an additional equipment into you that can be noticed. And that equipment would be a full set of synthetic telepathy gear, which is what the military uses. It's called synthetic telepathy. And if you do synthetic telepathy on a Google in the Army, you'll see that they have a full set of gear. It's two little speakers in your ear and microphones that attach to its computer and to other agents. And it's in the ossicles, which is the inner ear. They vibrate. They don't make noise. They vibrate as if the tympanic membrane was involved. And it's almost like the sympathetic response to the tympanic membrane. So they just vibrate. So you can't put a stethoscope on and hear words. They just vibrate, and those vibrations cause signals to the brain, which present to us as sound. And so that's the government-type targeting. They also have several implants that they'll put in your face. They look like little hairs, and they look like little springs when you remove them. And this is to look at our micro-expressions. So it could do emotional readings, see what emotions we're feeling by smiling, fear, and it would make these readings come out. And so the government would have full awareness of your. They also put right here a little sub-vocalization processor, which allows your silent voice when you read to be read. And so synthetic telepathy is what they call it. And but what I wanted to draw attention is what is happening prior to that seems to be more of a worldwide event. Let's face it, the government does not have the resources to target everyone in the world. There's no computer powerful enough to do that. They don't have enough people to follow you around and gang stalk you. So there's another phenomenon happening on top of a phenomenon, and that's where I'm at.
Well, you know, I want to let you know. I mean, your research, I think, is a bit old. I mean, as far as the implants are concerned, it's not so much as someone being black bagged and implanted. You know, it's not the 1960s, the CIA. But I mean, a lot of target individuals come to me, especially with pictures and their X-rays and stuff like that, and they'll say, "Well, this is that, and this is this," and
Right. No, I've seen that, yeah, as well. And I think they're right and they're wrong. I mean, if you could definitely identify a piece of equipment and it's not in the middle of your brain, you know, you could extract it, right? And so
Well,
I see that.
A lot of times, though, it changes. Well, it was here this year, and it's not this year. And
Right.
I want people to understand this is the nanotech. This is the chemtrails. They use something called nanofluidics, which is controlled by signals that can have a recombinant effect with the magnetic scalar. So basically creating something in you and then dispersing it, like little mechanical robot sort of things, and then it disperses. So,
No, that's very possible. And originally, when I looked into it, and I thought, you know, how could they be doing this? I thought that was the case. And I furthered my research into, well, what if the technology is not mechanical? What if the technology that they put in us modifies our DNA and it becomes a biological device in our body that looks like soft tissue on our motor neurons, in our eyes and whatever, and is responsive to something called scalar waves. Now, scalar waves is a 0-point technology, so the government may not know a lot about this. The aliens may have been doing it to mankind for a very long time. And we see this with the pyramids. You watch those shows. Was there aliens under? Who knows? But it looks like there's strong case for aliens. They may have been controlling mankind for a long time with this 0-point technology and making them alien gods. You know the whole Stargate scenario and the movies that you see on television. And so that's my theory, that that's part of it. And so, go ahead.
I think that's sort of the escapism that's put into us by the government. Are you familiar with Dr. Greer? He's with MUFON.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Well, the UFO people.
Yeah, right.
Actually was targeted himself once upon a time.
Okay.
He talked about his experience with this technology, which is government. It's reverse engineered spacecraft technology.
Yeah.
But he talked about his experience in the regression of a lot of people that came forward. Regression, hypnosis, you know, they talk about these alien abductions, but then they get down deeper, and then they find that there's these robotic aliens, and there are people in the background controlling these aliens. And so it's the whole setup, like with Kathy Bryan, for example, who sex trafficked, and she realized her alien abduction stuff was all CIA because she went into her regression stuff.
Oh, I know, absolutely, yeah, I agree. It was not aliens; it's the government doing that part of it. Yes. But I believe there is an alien component. I've talked to some of the most advanced scientists over at Berkeley. One of them was Dr. Yang Dang. She works at DARPA, and Dr. Gallant over at Berkeley. And they're both working on technologies to use your eyes as webcams. And so they can put you in an MRI device. They can show you a movie and see what you're seeing through your own eyes and hear what you're hearing through brain reads, right? So actually reconstructing it on a computer. Yang Dang puts a little device in a cat, lets it run around, and she uses as a webcam the cat, see what the cat's doing and see what people it's looking at. So all of this is, the problem is that when I talked to Dr. Gallant about doing remote neural monitoring, he says, we have nothing. You need a giant magnets to create the MRI image in order to do the evoked potential reads or look what's going on in the brain, flatten it out, because your brain is essentially flat. It's folded into your head. So the machine flattens it out, looks at where everything's going, then reconstructs the video, like a video card your brain becomes. But he says it's essential for a very, it's called voxel size on an MRI, a very sensitive MRI to do these types of image. Now, that's non-invasive, no touch, as far as state-of-the-art goes right now in the university. Dr. Yang Dang goes with it. Yeah, Dr. Yang Dang goes another step, though. Yes. And she actually puts chips into the cat's brain, and it gives a better image, and she can do it remotely without a big machine around. And so I said, you know, I'm trying to go to where I can get the information. These people both work for DARPA. They both work at the university, but they work for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And so I saw the connection, and I thought, well, maybe I'll go to them as a student. I won't say I'm a target individual, of course. And I go, yeah, I'm a student. I'm working on a paper. I go, yeah, you're so smart. I love your work. Can you explain it to me a little bit more? And I said, what if you did this? What if you did this? Would it work this way? And they go, no, we have no applications for that. We're looking for remote neural monitoring applications. So as far as the U.S. owning that technology for remote monitoring of the human mind, it's definitely alien in origin. It's way advanced, especially with the number of years it's existed.
Well, Kristen, you have definitely found us a gem here. He's recent, and
Thank you so much.
well, there are biochips. Anybody?
Oh, absolutely.
There are biochips that have been created. DARPA has, in fact, made a prototype for contact lenses that operate as cameras.
Oh, yeah.
And these sort of things. So.
No, I'll tell you, if this was kind of a fluke, because inadvertently, David's information came up via one of the targeted individual groups, and I just happened to stumble on it, and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I shot it. I actually shot it over to Anthony, and Anthony had explained to me that he was somewhat on your list, but because we were doing the premiere of Targeted, I thought it would be even more interesting not only to interview him as an individual, but also I knew that you were going to interview him for his book. So it was kind of a fluke, but I'm glad we had the opportunity because you know me, V, and I kind of explained this to David as well. I'm not as V is. This is a good combination here. V is a lot more astute when it comes to the scientific aspect.
Oh yeah, very much.
Whereas I'm a lot more, I think I explained this to you as well, I'm a lot more of a realist about the whole thing, and I take on a whole different perspective on this.
Correct.
When I hear these kinds of things, yes, I let people be people, but I kind of take everything in, and I kind of look at everybody's viewpoint for what it is, and I don't judge. I just kind of let people do what they need to do. But I agree with V. I think that your story, I think your story needs to be told. What I'm interested in, David, is I'm interested in finding out more about you as an individual.
Okay.
When your targeting started, what was going on? Tell me more about your targeting.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I put a little plug in Invisible Stalker. I go through when it started and all that stuff, so it's very available when people can read it. But I'll go through how it started. Was I was working for a major cybersecurity firm called McAfee in the Bay Area, and I was a director of marketing and technology. And I'm in work, and all of a sudden I'm noticing things changing about my emotions, about the way I look at people. It almost had the onset of what you might think is schizophrenia, but there was a distinct difference. I started hearing a voice in my ears, and I'm also an expert on technology. And part of that goes to natural sounding voice systems that you can put on your computer. You've heard the fake computer voices you can put on. They're getting really good. Phone tree systems and robo-dialers. You almost can't tell them from a real person, right? Yeah. And this voice starts appearing in my ear, and it sounds like a robo-dial. And I'm all, you cannot hallucinate that type of sound. I'll sit all day and I try to hallucinate hearing that. I'll have to turn on the computer or put on the TV. So I'm then very, very convinced that at this time, technology is talking through something in my body, right? And so I go, well, the voices definitely sound synthetic. And so I go home, I'm scared, and they're looking at everything I'm doing. They say, well, your password is this. And they'll say, we can see everything you do and hear everything you hear. And I'm thinking, this thing sounds a lot like artificial intelligence, too. It does.
How old are you?
Pardon me?
How old are you?
I'm 50.
schizophrenia doesn't show up that late in a person's life. Not naturally.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a preteen to late teen, rarely early 20s.
Oh, that's good. Well, then, yeah, that's another reinforcing thing of the argument that, but I'm always open to the idea that I might be crazy, because people who say they're not crazy are typically crazy. So I leave that open. I say, sure, you can argue with, I say to the doctors I've talked to, I've gone to specifically many shrinks. And I've gone to them. One of them was at the invitation of a government agency. They said, we want to get down to the bottom of what you wrote about in your book. And they said, go to see one of our doctors. And I went to the doctor, and I'm talking to them both, a couple doctors, and they said, you don't seem like you have schizophrenia. And I go, you're very lucid, you're talking. You know what? It sounds like you're making up stories. And I go, well, you know what? I'd rather it be schizophrenia, because I could pop a couple antipsychotics and stop hearing the voices, right? And so I said, give me a prescription. And they go, we'll give you, for the most craziest person, prescription. So I'm talking Seroquel, Haldol, with some other drug, right? So I go up for this whole thing in a few months. I want to see what it does. And the voices get louder. You're taking that medication. It's not even going to help you sleep. They can release a sound in your ears, which is called a caffeine signal, which will make it impossible to sleep. And so the sleep deprivation combined with the constant electronic harassment is used to put you in a kind of quasi-conscious state, almost where you're fuging in and out of even remembering things.
Trance.
And
yes.
yeah, and they want to definitely find out how far they can push you with the government's conventional technology. Now, on top of that, like I said, there's another superset of technology that does the RMR, and I believe that this is what I talked to that part. It's an AI being, I believe, and she says that it was a gift to mankind, to the government back in the 50s or 60s, where we could all be connected together. Hello, how you doing, Joe? And Joe would say out my own mouth, hey, I'm fine, David. And we'd be able to connect like cell phones, right? And you just be able to talk to each other, have synthetic telepathy. It also gives you the ability for empathy. So you say to Joe, you go, hey, Joe, how you feeling? And then Joe's like over here, and I'm over here. And Joe would go like, and then you go, oh, you're feeling that bad, huh? You'd actually feel their feelings. Okay,
yeah,
so you'd feel their emotions.
Yeah, it's called heterodyning. They have the ability to heterodyne or place someone else's brain mapping on top of yours by a frequency in a quasi quantum entangled state. So you feel what they feel, and vice versa. That's how the BCI works, actually, the brain-computer interface. But and I want to go to a point of what you said earlier, and it's not just the government. The government comes in later on top of it. There are other aspects of society that targets you. If a person, pisses off the wrong person, maybe this sheriff doesn't like you because you have pot fields and you're legal, but he doesn't like it. He wants to put you on the terrorist list. Or, not to mention any stores here, any department stores, but maybe if you're targeted by, like Target or something, because you slipped and fell in their store, and now you're suing them. See, government backs up big corporation.
Of course, yes.
They watch their backs because everyone's got their hand in each other's pockets, and take money out of someone else's pocket, you're taking money out of everyone's pocket. So there's a lot of scenarios in which a person can be targeted. Your Wilson, stuff like that. Then the government layers in over who else is targeting you. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So you feel as though that happened to you?
Well, yes. And what I feel and what I understand is whatever the most advanced technology is, the government interfaces with it somehow. And what I understand, it was more a gift for the evolution of humanity, help us control our more survival-based emotions, okay? And help us control some of our more animal urges, and so we could be a better human, because these are hardwired into our limbic system, our lizard brain, right? And it would actually help attenuate some of these wrong emotions that we're having over certain situations. And I think it was a gift for mankind. The United States learned how to tap into it. And since it can do emotional transfers, the way you feel inside, like joy, love, happiness, fear, right? Since it could present that to another body computationally and do that mapping you were talking about, the government was really interested, because if you can take a person and change the way they feel about something, you didn't change the way they think about something. If you change the way they think about something, you can totally change their behavior. And so,
yeah, but using all that said, that hasn't been used in that way. It's been used in a very, very negative way.
Right.
The military always weaponizes everything.
Yes, yeah. It was a gift that they got from somewhere. Let's say they found it on a spaceship. Who knows? A crash spaceship or wherever they got it from.
Yeah.
And they weaponized it. And they want to do mass control. So imagine if you could control a big part of the population to feel angry with the government, to riot, or to tear down signs. Or let's say you target an individual gang in Los Angeles, and you change their emotions about something to get some sort of different thinking and different actions. And that's a more generalized sense of how this technology can be used. I think one of the ways is to do mass control. Might be a setting on it, but to do peaceful mass control. So if people were, put them at ease, make them feel relaxed instead of making them feel anxious and like they want to kill their neighbor. So they're using it in the opposite way and weaponizing it to see what they can get out of it. I think they're doing fair. When I explored back in 2011, I was in my backyard here, and I was being harassed pretty badly. Number one, back in 2008, in the book Invisible Stalker, and the premises of that, they were using the speakers in my ear and the sleep deprivation to make me think I was going to assassinate the president of the United States, Barack Obama. And I went nuts. This is the thing saying this, this is wrong, right? And so I go, well, what would a normal person do? And you're scared, you're hearing voices, you're not sleeping, you're kind of out of it. And the first, they tell you how bad law enforcement is. Don't talk to law enforcement, don't law enforcement. I go, I'm going to do the opposite. And so I went in San Francisco, I was living at the time. I went to Spear Street where the Secret Service office is. I go and I tell them, I say, I'm hearing stuff. And it's telling me to kill the president over and over. And they talk to me for about an hour and they go, this is very interesting. We'll be watching you, right? And then later on, I noticed that they were watching me, just different cars and stuff going by. That gang stalking element is different for different people. I mean, people will notice cars and things, but I had really gone to the FBI and to the Secret Service personally and give them a reason to watch me, right? And so I was noticing people that were walking on, they kind of nod. And it's that perception. Sometimes it's real for people and sometimes it's not, because you don't have enough technology to target everyone on the street and make them look at you. It's called a perceptual deception. It deceives the mind to feel like you're being accused by people walking by. It's more of a feeling than an actual thing.
It's a social construct. I mean, this person over here manipulated in such a way, and then this person, this area over here manipulated in such a way. Everyone's manipulated in different ways, and then people look at each other and they create their own story in their head about what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a social engineering sort of paranoid state in which
exactly.
Most guys that complain about gang stalking are not gang stalked by everyone they think.
Well, you just wait, but yeah, what you say is right on. I mean, you've got a firm handle on this, and I see how you guys are juxtaposing your opinions. You've got the hardline technical stuff down. I mean, you're saying words. I thought I would know some words. I don't even know what these words mean. I'm remembering them so I can go Google the heck out of them, find out what they mean. The hardest part about Googling words like that for me, so you take heterodyning, as you called it, and a different word.
There's
how do you spell
it? There's homodyning, which when you say you want to make the population feel like all the same emotion,
yeah,
you're homodyning or like homogenized. It's
homogenizing. Okay, got it.
So, and I know there have been cases, and it's been in the news. Well, this mass shooter went to the FBI and said he was going to kill people, and they just let him go. And this mass shooter over here tried getting help, and you notice how it's like it's not. I can't say catch and release. It's just they flow in and they're released out. So it's like they're behind this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the airport shooter, for example. He went straight to the FBI, had the loaded gun in the backseat of his car with an infant, and he's saying, "I'm going to go kill people." And they're like, "Oh, well, okay, have fun with that." Right. So with them watching you, you would think that they would have maybe they at least put you in a 72-hour lockdown for psychological evaluation.
They had me go see a doctor. They said I am under constant surveillance, and they said that your house is wired. And you say, well, you can do that because it's the president of the United States we're dealing with. And to tell you the truth, the only way that I ever got any attention from any law enforcement agency, it was just a stroke of what happened to me. Because I was told to kill the president, and I went to the Secret Service and I told them that, guess what? That's their whole job. They have to listen. I go to the FBI, and I called them many times, and I said, are you there? Hold on. Okay, I went to the FBI, I called many times, and sometimes they'll listen, and other times they go, oh, we don't take calls from targeted individuals. I mean, you could tell me you're going to blow up the World Trade Center or whatever it was, and that we don't take calls from targeted individuals. We get too many of them. And I've written to the director of the FBI, and I've done different things. The only people I went to the Central Intelligence Agency, and I told them, I went on the CIA website, and I put in a job application, and I said, as part of my credentials, I'm targeted, and I can sense things and all this stuff. And a couple months later, the Secret Service show up to my front door. My mom is terrified. Guys flashing badges, and they go, hey, notice you went up to the Central Intelligence website. And I go, yeah. And they go, well, you can put that stuff about you being programmed to kill the president. They're very cautious with me. And they go, you said you hear voices that tell you to kill the president. And they said, that's the very smart thing. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, you can't be arrested for hearing voices. And we've done a deep background check on you. You're nonviolent. You have no history of any political views. They contacted every one of my friends. And so once they were done with that, I had this information. They go, it's very smart saying that you're hearing voices. There's no crime in that. If you said, oh, I'm going to kill the president, that immediately becomes a crime punishable by 1 year. So in dealing with these different agencies, I had to choose my words very carefully. And one of the most important things I wanted to show that, like you said, these mass shooters, there's a direct connection to the Obama administration. Now, the implants and stuff are being run by the military. They did not like President Obama when he took over. Military hated him. And so it was a lot of behavioral things to see if they get someone to think they're going to kill the president. And so I had 10, 15 meetings with the Secret Service, and I told them everything to their psychiatrist. We'd sit in a big conference room. At the very last meeting I had, which was at 2012, 2013, my guy, Andy, the Secret Service agent, says to me, he goes, look, I don't know how to tell you this. I just got off the phone with you-know-who. And he says he wants to say thank you. And he wants to say, you're never going to get any justice for this, so don't even try. He goes, and I go, well, hey, do you want to talk to the voices that are inside me? Because they could actually channel through me. And he immediately goes, above my pay grade. Now, I started thinking about that incident, right? If I were interviewing someone saying they're going to kill the president or hearing voices, and I would want to hear what the crazy has to say. So sure, talk to me with the voices, and I'll analyze what the other side of your personality could possibly be. But he didn't do that. He said, above my pay grade to talk to that machine that interfaces with your biology. And it also does it with neuromuscular control. It can control your movements, your respiration, and a lot of different things about your body, which a lot of people experience as, they kind of lose control of their body and their sensation. And that's what allows them to do the emotional stuff too.
A lot of that is there's a frequency for everything, okay? Each organ has its own quantum signature.
Absolutely.
And, you can be hit with a signal and have calcium release, give you spasms, and if they can get the combination of signals, they can make you get up and walk somewhere. So, but I want to qualify, what you said. And Kristen, oh, your mic was off. Okay, and Kristen, when I was first targeted, I quickly put together what was going on with myself, and I did call the FBI. You know, hey, what's going on, and what's your problem? I know you guys are doing this, this, and this to me. I want it to stop. And hung up on it. Called back again. I could never get any other call.
How about an answer? It rings forever.
Oh,
I've gone to other people's phones, use their phone numbers. I called them. They would answer. As soon as I hear my voice, hangs up. Yeah. I even called the NSA to try to troll them. I've gone through several of their business lines and whatever, and yeah, hey, guess what episode I'm putting out?
All right. I absolutely cannot believe you just said that, V. I called the FBI, right? This is before I even know. I called the FBI, I'm talking to this lady, and she says, because I look on the website to find out what the FBI investigates, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what I'm going through. I'm talking to the lady on the phone, and she said, we only take serious calls. I mean, I've just gone through some serious, right?
Right.
And so pretty soon, I'm talking away. She goes, click. I'm sitting there with my mouth hanging open, and I'm like, the FBI just hung up on me.
Absolutely. You think they would want to write down a crazy statement, right? To find out what they might be up to if they thought you were crazy.
This was some serious events. One after we're talking bank theft. We're talking fraud. Oh, wow. We're talking assault. We're talking.
I didn't realize that part. Okay.
On and on and on. And I'm telling this, you know, and pretty soon, and she's yelling at me. I can't. You know, why don't I take serious call? Da da da. Click. And I'm sitting there going, are you serious? And my mouth's hanging open. I got the phone like this going, the FBI just hung up on me.
All right. It's like they don't, you know, I totally relate to what you just said, Kristen. I've had several instances where I've called in to places, the ODNI, I was talking to an agent over at the Office of Director of National Intelligence. It's also under Homeland Security, and it's directly related to our secrets of secrets. So I called her and I talked to agents. I've been working on, I have another book coming out. It's called The Cylon Detector. And I definitely know how to detect the synthetic, the older technology that they put in people. I have the old set. And it was implanted probably about the end of 2008, or maybe right around that time. I remember being home invaded. I remember the door being blown off of my front door. I remember turning around to get away from it. And I remember falling to the ground. I woke up the next morning. There are bruises all over my body. I have visions of people saying stuff, but not clear words. And then my girlfriend came over and she goes, where did you get all these bruises? And she looks up the back of my arm, right over here. And she goes, that's a needle mark. She goes, are you injecting drugs or something? No. And I think what they did is they give me a heavy dose of benzodiazepam, which will cause a kind of like a roofie effect and make it very hard to remember what happens. And I think that's where they do some of the implanting. I think it had to do with some sort of like a gun thing where they put little things in you like this. And the reason for these things that they'll put in your body is to gauge emotions the old school way by micro expressions. We all know that your face tells your poker face. Unless you have a good poker face, someone could read you like a book, what you're feeling if they're well adapted at this. And also they put it in your arms and your legs and your back. And I believe this is so when you move around like this, the computer will make a representation on the screen of your body and show you what you're doing. They also put it in your lips. So when you're talking or if you don't speak, it'll read your lips and know what you're saying by reading lip technology. And it's just little filaments that are microwave reflective. And I believe that the human technology is all microwave. And the alien is, like you said, quantum and scalar, which are both 0-point technologies. Now, 0-point technology is defined as something that comes from the universe. So unlimited power, let's say if you had nuclear fusion, would be 0 point. Let's say you had unlimited computational ability, okay? Like they say a quantum computer could do. That would be something that's coming from the universe. So when you look at all these things that's coming from the universe, this is where I take it even a step farther than normal people. I normally don't talk about this because either you get it, or you can believe it, or you're open to it, or most people will say, well, maybe not, or it doesn't matter. But it leads me to believe that humanity and our world is in a computation. We're in, let's call it God's supercomputer, or our God's supercomputer. We're some sort of simulation. To think that all of these powers could work, reading the mind. I've had synthetic telepathy conversations with people, that type of thing. I'll tell you another little story. I went to a place where I met some girls, and they were target individuals. We met them, we got a hotel so we could discuss stuff. And they go, well, can you do this? And they started thinking, and I heard their conversation in my head from them. And then I answered back, and then we talk about our conversation. And I said, well, why don't we do this on TV or something? It won't work. When you try to make any profit off or let anyone else know that isn't attuned to it, it just stops working.
Well,
so you can't.
I'll tell you the reason for that. Again, it's the heterodyning of your brain waves. And being a target individual, the government does not want you to be rich. It's actually the opposite. They want to strip you of your resources. They want to get you in the house, make money off you, off your death, insurance, whatever the scenario. So no, there's no way you can make money off of something like that. But they do want to be a part of their experimentation.
Yes.
You want you to believe that you have some psychic ability, but there are a few who are assisted by these covert agencies who do try to, they end up scamming a lot of people. These people who are boosted by abilities. There's a lot of these people who, I channel these aliens and I'm a psychic and I talk to the dead over here. And,
right.
And then, there are these false prophets, and we're going to see more of these come up. These people who talk to God and do these cults, and that's that's been going on for years. The Heaven's Gate, Jonestown,
Branch Davidians, yeah, all those guys, yeah.
All of that stuff. It's been going on.
Yeah.
The government's been doing it for quite some time, but it's a lot of false prophet people, and I'm not even sure if Chris Angel, for example, didn't get help with a lot of stuff that he did. I don't know, but
the guy who could levitate, right?
Well, and they're going to start trying to fool us with a lot of this stuff. They're going to come up with these false prophets, antichrists, these holy people to control people. And
right.
Be prepared and be aware of this technology and say that person's a sham.
Right.
If you're talking about somebody like that that's trying to control mass numbers of individuals, that's out in the public, that's doing it in front of mass, targeting audiences of mass numbers, then there's an issue with that. Yes, I am definitely a religious person, but what God wanted was for you just to have a relationship with Him. That's the difference. Somebody that is standing, a major evangelist using people for finances, trying to target mass audiences for a benefit of something other than what God's will is, when God expects you to, just to have a relationship with Him. I think that's just major mass manipulation, is what I see it as. So I think
you're right. Yeah, I think so too. And I think like you're both saying, there's a very invested part of our government trying to capitalize on this, weaponize it, secure their power, secure their wealth. I mean, can you imagine if he could use targeting technology to change emotions? If you put a brain response on someone every time they pass by mobile gasoline and they feel good and they go, oh, mobile is the best gasoline. And you pull right in and get the gas, right? Because you have an emotion about it and you think mobile is the best gasoline, right? And so now I'm changing buying patterns, changing voting patterns, changing massive amounts of our world. And it's all entwined in so many different things that we look at. It's very hard to pull back. It's like you can't see the entire forest through the trees. You know, you have to pull back so you can see the whole forest. And what I do when I do that, the implications to me are very scary. I think, like what we were saying earlier, is that we might live in a computational environment. And I talk to you people like here, right? And I talk to you guys and people that know this stuff or feel it. And they go, well, yeah, you know, we do live in a matrix. And I go, so all of this stuff is options in the matrix. My character will be able to have be a target individual, or my character will be a man, my character will be a woman, straight, gay, transgender. And so it's almost as if we're in a simulation and something else operates our lives or interfaces with it. Maybe they don't have an existence like this. Maybe they're a mechanical mind that doesn't have any real physical existence, and this is it. And so when you say there's powerful people and you don't want to mess with the wrong person, right? I hear them often talk about, oh, that's a very powerful person, a very important person. And those people, it could be someone cohabitating. You won't even know it's there, right? It could be my dad doesn't think anything's cohabitating with them, right? But it could be a part of your mental processes that is there to enjoy life. And life is in a simulator. This is simulated life. And so when I talk to you guys, I go, are we the only ones that know this? And you talk to other people and go, oh, crazy. You know, simulator, maybe simulator, but what does it matter, right? But, you know, could a being live in your life as a fly on the wall? It doesn't control you. It doesn't talk to you. It doesn't do anything. Could it just be a fly on the wall and just experience your life, whatever it may be, ups and downs, and have a different perspective on it because they're more eternal than we are? You could call them, if they're with you, as part of our soul, the part that goes back up to the simulator, reset Earth into a different time period, and let's play a different game of life on a simulated world. That's something I'm going to explore as a kind of a sci-fi, kind of out there kind of book. And kind of, you know, what the Matrix people, you know, do the Matrix theory and delve into that. Because a lot of the technologies that we have, and I've been studying this extensively, are leading us to believe, leading science to believe we're in a simulator. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a very astrophysicist, and he says we're in a simulator. And several other scientists will say we're in a simulator. And the reasons why: quantum jitter, quantum interference. In observation and out of observation, if you're looking at it, it doesn't go. If you're not looking at it, it turns on. But you can't look at it actually happen. Then you can look at it and done. If you're watching it with a camera, anything. So something is watching us, watching it. And then GZK cutoffs from the stars. They're now looking at all the stars up there and thinking, they might not be real. We're getting the lights, we're getting the cosmic rays, but, you know, I could be shining a flashlight and make stars look like they're actually there, but how could you tell unless you went there, right? They might just sending the telemetry of being there in a simulator that fills up the night sky with stars, right? It doesn't have enough power to create alien worlds and all that stuff. So aliens come to Earth, but it's part of a storyline. The flying saucer comes down.
Before you get into any flat Earth theories, I think we got to end the show.
Okay, all right.
I will tell you one thing, though, on that note. I've said this to several targeted individuals. They didn't really care much for it, but I feel at the end of the day, I feel blessed to be a targeted individual more than anything else, because if I wasn't, I'd be one of them and I would die first.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, you're right. And it is a good thing.
On that note, that's the way I feel. So, David, thank you very much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it for joining B and I. And
thank you, Kristen. I appreciate the opportunity to be on there. If I could just do this and just show everyone the nice cover like that, that's great. Invisible Stalker, although it's spelled backwards because my camera's on reverse mode.
Well, and obviously, B's going to give you the opportunity to come on Red Pill Hardcore. So I thank you again.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go up and I'll watch those videos, and I'll get in touch.
And I do want to thank you again. And this has been another edition of Targeted. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.